Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I think we're probably live on our live stream. And we want to call forward Ira Spector he's our vice president of our board of directors. He's going to give us some very important announcements. I'm not sure if that's on, Ira, so go. Try that one.
How about now? Okay, great. Well, welcome. Shabbat Shalom, everyone here and everyone at home watching on the internet. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. Tonight's a special evening. It's Teacher Shabbat and Birthday Shabbat. So we have a lot to go over, a lot to celebrate tonight, and we're even going to be talking about Israel tonight as well. Just a few announcements. I'm going to go down them quickly. Sunday night, this coming Sunday, is the Shavuos Drum Circle. It's going to begin at 7:30. So please register on the website and join us. It's going to be very special. Shavuot Yizkor service is Monday as well at 6 p.m. So right before. Registration is always available as well. And on May 21st, we're going to have a special service to honor Rabbi Cookie, who is going to be taking over the rabbi position at Temple Emmanuel in Phoenix, Arizona. We look forward to that special evening to honor her. Preschool is opening up this fall, so let's keep an eye out for all the information, the registration. Just as a reminder, Monday the office administration will be closed for Shavuos. So if you're calling in and you're not able to reach somebody, that will be the reason. We are looking at bringing back Oneg Shabbats. Yay. Currently, they're just going to be take-home Onegs where we're given a little treat to take home with us, but we're looking hopefully very soon to bring back a wonderful Oneg for everybody. I want to thank in advance Cantor Hutchings, Rabbi Cookie, Ricky Reinhardt, for always providing a beautiful service in which I am looking forward to this evening, and I know you are too. So thank you in advance to you all for that. I want to speak a little bit to you all tonight about an important subject, and that's about COVID. As you know, we've been trying to keep you abreast, informed, educated as to how we are looking at protecting the congregation, protecting the synagogue during this COVID pandemic. We've had 2 town halls on the internet, which we had very good attendance to, and we have a COVID committee that meets every other week and discusses all the various types of get-together gatherings and the ways in which we can keep each other safe. The main intent there is keeping our congregation safe, keeping them informed, and ensuring that you feel good and safe about coming to services and participating in all the various activities we have. So that is the main intent. And as you might have heard yesterday, the Center for Disease Control put out some information concerning the wearing of masks. And what they were saying is those of us who are fully vaccinated, in other words, those of us who have 2 vaccinations for the double shots, or anyone who has completed the single shot vaccination and have waited the week and 2 weeks, they said will not be required to wear masks indoors or outdoors. So how does that affect us? How does that affect our congregation? How does that affect services, Onegs, school, preschool, all these kinds of things? Well, we have not heard, although we've heard from the CDC, we have not heard from the governor. We have not heard Nevada's local guidance on that. So we are awaiting what he has to say about that. Although CDC came out, we have not heard locally. So we're waiting on the governor, and we will let you know as soon as we can as to what his mandate is in regard to mask wearing. But currently, we are still hoping that each of us are wearing our masks, and we're hoping that each of us will socially distance. If you're in the same family, of course, it's less of a risk, so you sit together. But we're hoping to spread people out and not sit together. And when we do go to no masks, we're going to have to count on each other for truth and honesty regarding whether we had our vaccinations, because that's all we have to go on. We have to go on one another, to trust one another, and to feel safe being with one another, that the person without a mask is safe and healthy and not a risk, nor are we. Because whether you know it or not, we can have our vaccinations and have them for months and still obtain COVID and still be a carrier and give it to somebody else. So this is all about caring about our fellow man, caring about our fellow congregants, caring about our families, our loved ones, our friends. So we're going to try here at Congregation Ner Tamid to continue wearing our masks and socially distancing until we get a very clear mandate that we're in a healthy place and we can feel free to come to services, come to preschool, come to our activities and not be intimidated, not be worried, and not be fearful regarding this. One more thing I wanted to mention. We've been through a lot this year. Everybody has. And in going through this pandemic, we've been frightened quite a bit. We've been told that if we don't follow guidelines, we could get very sick. Our loved ones could get very sick, and we could become extremely ill and possibly end up dying. So when that happens, we end up getting a very traumatic feeling inside of us, and I'm sure we all have that to a certain extent. So I hope that that concern and that worry translates into us caring about one another, being safe, coming here, remembering our social distancing. Do not embrace here together in the congregation, please. This is all for love of you all and for the safety of our synagogue, our congregants, and those whom we care about and love. So with that in mind, I thank you very much for your attention, and good Shabbos to you.
Thank you so much, Ira. Well, mask or not, I'm just glad that we can be together. So it's so wonderful to be here and share the Bima tonight with Rabbi Cookie Olshine. We are celebrating so much. Our teachers, May birthdays, and we are also standing together for Israel, for we are the people Israel. Anything else you want to add to that before we have our opening song?
Is going to be found on page 651, All Kol Ele. And what I love about this piece, which you find in the back of your Sidurim, is it talks about Israel being perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect. The beginning of it says, "My good God, keep these safe, the honey and the sting, the bitter and the sweet." And certainly right now, our beloved Israel is going through a time of bitterness. So I understand that we have a special guest who's going to come sing with you, Cantor.
So Dr. Karine Hochman is going to join me on the Bima. When I was talking about this opening song, she said, this is what my family made me sing when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. Like, look, my kid can sing. And I said, oh, mine was Somewhere Over the Rainbow, you know, parents. So how could I not sing it with her?
על הדבש ועל העוקץ, על המר והמתוק, על ביתנו התינוקת שמור אלי הטוב, על האש המבוערת, על המים הזכים, על האיש השב הביתה מן המרחקים. על כל אלה, על כל אלה, שמור נא לי אלי הטוב, על הדבש ועל העוקץ, על המר והמתוק. אל נטע כה נטוע, אל תשכח את התקווה, השיבני ואשובה אל הארץ הטובה.
For
for the honey and the bee sting, for the bitter and the sweet, all the things which join as one to make our lives complete. For the future of our children, for our prayers will never cease, for the hope that with tomorrow comes a world of peace. Al-Kolele, Al-Kolele, Shmona li Eli Hatov, Al Hadvash ve'al ha'oketz, Al Amar ve'hamatok, Al Nata'akor Natua, Al Tishkach et ha'tikva, Hashiveni ve'ashuva el ha'aretz ha'tova.
You just got to leave it on.
Leave it on. We are fortunate this evening to invite forward the teachers in our community for the honor of lighting Shabbat candles. And I think there are some madrichim who are here as well, maybe?
For sure.
Yes, and so if you feel comfortable coming forward over to our Shabbat candles, your fearless leader, our cantor and interim religious school director, will be with you as you are present to light Shabbat candles this evening. So come on over. This side. They're on the other side. If you'd like to follow along in your prayer books, try page 120 for the blessings.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
We thank you all for coming forward, and we're going to ask you to come back a little later in the service, so pay attention for your invitation. So, we're going to turn in our prayer books to page 124, where I will invite you to read with me beginning in the middle of the page 124. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. We'll continue now on page 138 as we will recite and sing Lecha Dodi. This beautiful melody is from Mordechai Ze'ira, an Israeli composer, right, Cantor?
Yes, tonight we've woven a couple of things through our service. Israeli composers and also messages of hope and love through our prayer. So this, you may have heard a bit of this particular melody, but not the entirety of it. So it's one of the Lecha Dodis that we teach in religious school because it's easy to follow along.
Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela Shabbat shalom Shabbat shalom umevorach Shabbat shalom umevorach.
As we turn to our call to worship, the Baruch Hu on page 148, we invite you to rise in body or in spirit.
146, so close.
146 through 148.
Yes, good point.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
As you're seated, I invite you to turn to the Ve'ahavta.
And I see, maybe a couple of, I see Atara's face right now, but she's like, a cantor's going to call on me. I see Kale and Atara that might want to help us with Ve'ahavta, maybe. And I see Jacob and Lenny and Abby. Why don't you just come up here and join us? I haven't been able to do this in a long time. It gives me a lot of pleasure to call you up here.
This is very exciting
This
for
is
the
very
cantor
exciting.
and me.
Yeah.
Come on, you can do it. We
Come
have
on.
faith in you.
You want a bar mitzvah? Get up here.
I got the words right here.
I'm not going to give you the microphone. Don't worry.
Yeah.
AB wants the microphone. Just kidding. Go on.
The Ve'ahavta is a prayer all about how we show our love for God. And so we have these fine, soon-to-be bat and bar mitzvah students up here who are would like to use our books, page 154, as we chant all about how we show our love for God.
Shall
As we
They will
turn-
be our headliners in the future 2 years for Bar and Bat Mitzvah.
Page 158, we find a beautiful piece celebrating our liberation. And tonight, the cantor has chosen the melody of Hatikva, the Hope, Israel's national anthem, so that we can celebrate becoming liberated, hopefully again, from this which holds us back.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך רב ענך, בוקעי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
Page 161, we find an interpretive version of Hashkivenu. This is our nighttime prayer for peace as we put our heads down on our pillows. Tonight we imagine all those in the land of Israel who are sleeping in bomb shelters, who are sleeping not knowing when the next siren will go off, and we give them this prayer for peace as well.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu, Leshalom. והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. השכיבנו, אדוני אלוהינו, השכיבנו Shalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
On page 165, in the second paragraph, we find the words by the great Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. He taught us the following: prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. I invite you to arise and body your spirit as we continue with our central prayer, the Amidah, page 164. Continuing on even-numbered pages, silently.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
We continue in silent devotion with the prayers within our hearts, or the prayers on pages 166 through 181. When you have completed your prayers, please be seated.
In our prayer books, we now turn to page 371 as we find our prayer for healing this evening. We'd like to invite you to place names that for the people you are praying for healing for in the chat this evening so that the cantor can share their names with us as well. Our healing list this evening: the Horn Toussaint family, Linda Arslan, Irving Zide, Renee Diamond, Arlene Cohen, Regina Baker, Derek Baker, Ailey Bat-Shachaf Vasigalit, Addie Cohen.
Jean Poussin, if there's anyone in our congregation tonight that would like to say a name, please rise and do so at this time.
We also add the following names in our prayers for body, healing of body and spirit.
Teresa Bertelli Ream, Clay Tarika, Donald Schwartz, Patsy Cart, David Weinstein, Flory Sassner, Jim and Barb Woodruff and family, Stuart Baker, Mindy Nanny, Ron Hildebrand.
Our prayer is found in the indented part of page 371.
Mi sheberach avotenu mikor habracha laimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So across the valley this evening, congregations, rabbis are speaking about standing with Israel right now. And I titled this piece, Israel is Personal. And in truth, in fact, I want Israel to be personal for every one of us. It wasn't personal for me for a very long time. I grew up in a classical Reform congregation in Atlanta, Georgia, and the name of the congregation was The Temple. Like, the temple in Jerusalem. And I was taught as a child that everywhere was holy, and you could have just as much holiness in Marietta, Georgia, as you could in Israel. So I didn't really connect with Israel that much. And I never imagined in a million years that I would end up living in Jerusalem. I couldn't have imagined giving up my life and going over there to study to become a rabbi, which is a requirement of the Reform movement and has been for about 40 years for all their rabbis to go to Israel for a year. Never imagined in a million years that I'd move to Israel in the middle of an intifada. And in fact, my year in Israel was the second worst year of the second intifada. So why do I bring that up? Because right now, the same feelings of terror that I felt living in Israel, not knowing when the next bus would blow up, are the feelings, but I would say 10 times worse now, that people are feeling in Israel when they hear the sirens go off and having maybe 15 seconds to run to the nearest shelter. It's terrorism. It's a hard word for us Americans to really understand, or at least it was before we had domestic terrorists who blew up different things all over our country, and then we had international terrorists who took down World Trade and the Pentagon and a plane in the field in Pennsylvania for 9/11. I don't think we understood terrorism. But unfortunately, we're starting to understand terrorism better now. But the reality of it is none of us really understand what's happening in Israel right now with the rockets being sent over, hundreds of rockets being sent over, and that alarm, that siren going off at all hours of the day and night. So I want to put this into perspective for us. I looked up the area in square miles for the city of Las Vegas, not the whole Las Vegas Valley, and not Las Vegas, Nevada, but just the incorporated part of Las Vegas, which is actually quite small. It is 136 square miles. And I looked up the area of Gaza. Gaza, it's 141 square miles. I looked up the distance between my house, which is near Cheyenne and Buffalo, on the other side of the world for most people down here in Henderson, to Congregation Ner Tamid. And from my house to here is 26 miles. And I looked up the distance from Congregation Ner Tamid to I-15, to the Strip, basically. And it is 7.5 miles. Gaza is at its narrowest point 3.7 miles, and at the widest point 7.5 miles. And at its longest point, it's 25 miles long, less than the distance from my home to Congregation near Tamid. Perspective. I want you to imagine that crazy people were sending rockets from my house at Cheyenne and Buffalo, trying to blow up Congregation near Tamid. It's that close. Crazy people on the Strip trying to blow up Congregation near Tamid. It's that close. And unless we've been to Israel, and unless we've stood in those tiny little towns like Sderot, we don't really feel or understand the terror. But unfortunately, it's not just the towns like Sderot that are so close to Gaza now, as the rockets are flying further, flying higher. We all need to understand that there is a miracle in Israel, and it's called Iron Dome. And Iron Dome is a defense mechanism that we should be proud as Americans partially fund. America invests in Israel to secure Israel's people. Every one of us should be proud for every time Iron Dome sends up a missile to blow up a rocket in midair. But even Iron Dome isn't perfect. It's not perfect. Now, on the news yesterday, I heard something in the news reporting that was remarkable. And I want us to try to frame how we think of this and what is going on in Israel right now in these terms. I heard the situation there being described as Israel versus Hamas, not Israel versus Palestine or Israel versus the Palestinian people. You see, we are hearing lots of news through, I hate to say it, primarily social media right now. And social media is probably not the best place for any of us to get our news. Not about anything that happens here in the United States, nor anything that happens across the world. And so my plea for all of us tonight is, of course, we pray that peace will come again soon for all of Israel. But my prayer for us is that we take Israel on and make it personal, even if we've never been there, by doing our own research, by making sure that we don't just read or listen to one news outlet. By the way, this is good advice on everything in the news, not just Israel, but in particular, Israel right now. We need to be sure that we're listening to the left and the right, and the center left and the center right. And we have to make sure that we listen to multiple news sources so that we can figure out our truth and not just listen to one truth that is presented to us. So I'm going to give you a very small list of names, and I want you to go home. Yes, I'm telling you to go home on Shabbat and turn your computers on. I'm looking at all of you. I'm going to ask you sometime over Shabbat to find 3 news sources. Just 3. I'm going to give you a list of things you've heard of and things you haven't. But maybe you look for 3 across the spectrum and look for stories that are about what's going on right now in Israel. Read multiple versions of what's happening so that you can find your own truth, so that you can be educated from a variety of different sources so that you too can stand up with Israel. You know, as Americans, we do not take for granted the idea that we can defend ourselves against terrorism. We know we can. And Israel deserves nothing less. Remember, it's not Israel versus Palestine or Israel versus the Palestinian people. It's Israel defending itself against terrorists, against Hamas. So here are the names of some papers that you can look at online, newspapers online. I want you to think of the Times of Israel. The Times of Israel, it markets itself as being very centered in that it provides both opinions from the left and the right. Times of Israel, TOI, simple to find. Of course, there's the Jerusalem Post and Haaretz. One sort of is center-left, Haaretz, and the other is maybe center-right, Jerusalem Post. But I want you to look for a religious Zionist perspective, too, to hear what they're saying, because those are settlers. And so go on Arutz Sheva, Israel National News, and specifically look and see what people from the right are looking for in their news, so you can try to understand their perspective. Go to I-24 News. It's a French and English and Hebrew station that you can find a really different perspective, what they're covering during this situation. There's Israel Hayom, which some people refer to as Bibiton, which is Iton is newspaper and Bibi. So you can guess what side that is on. But that newspaper, Israel Hayom, Israel Today, has a particular perspective in support of Bibi Netanyahu. But maybe there's another place. There's an organization called Media Line, the Media Line, that I like to recommend. It's American journalists striving to provide a centric perspective, especially with regards to the West Bank and with the Palestinian people. You see, it's only after we do our own investigation, after we make up our own opinions, as opposed to relying on what might be haphazardly, or some say very intentionally, coming through our Facebook feeds. If we only listen to one news channel, if we only read what's on our Twitter feed, what's in our Facebook feed, we are only going to get the opinions that already are within us. Let us challenge ourselves to come to our own opinions after doing our own research. Let us challenge ourselves to make Israel personal for us, so that we can have a story, even if we haven't been there, of how Israel touches our heart and how we stand with the country and the people of Israel. Shabbat Shalom.
Pray for well-being, O Jerusalem. May all those who love you be at peace. For you are a light that shines upon the world. My heart turns to you to pray for peace. Shalom, shalom, Yerushalayim, Yishlayu Ohavayich. Shalom, shalom, Yerushalayim, Yishlayu Ohavayich. Im eshkachech Yerushalayim, תדבק לשוני לחכי, המלוא את ירושלים על ראש שמחתי. שלום, שלום, ירושלים, ישליו אוהבייך. Shalom, shalom, Yerushalayim, Yishlayu Ohavayich.
Indeed, we do pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Well, it is a special time in our service where we are going to ask our teachers and our madrichim to come back up onto the bima for a special blessing from Cantor Hutchings.
So as they're making their way up, we had a very unique year. First of all, I couldn't have predicted that I would ever be the principal of our school, but I am honored to have done so and to continue to do so for however long our community needs us to, or needs me to. I say us because Haley and I are a team. And it has been a joy and a privilege, truly, to get to know these teachers, how they teach, and how they've made an impact on all of our students. They are examples of what it means to have a Jewish soul and impart that on our wonderful students. So I hope you can feel the love both in this room and from the live stream and from me and from our community for how grateful that we are to all of you for the work that you do and continue to do. And I know it's been Teacher Appreciation Month, and some of you who are teachers in CCSD or for your secular jobs have been showered with donuts and cookies and all the praise that and sweetness that the world can give you. And so we're going to do that tonight for you as well, because, you know, can't have too much of that. But I wanted to give you a blessing. So let's open the ark. Please rise, yes. Ata honen la'adam da'at, ulamed le'nosh bina, honenu me'itacha de'a bina v'haskel. Baruch ata Adonai honen hada'at. You graciously endow us with intelligence, teaching wisdom and understanding. Grant us knowledge, discernment, and wisdom. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who graciously grants intelligence. May you be blessed and strengthened as you have blessed and strengthened our students. May you have peace, grace, and kindness, mercy, long life, and everything that you need. Why are the words of Torah like fire? A fire is built by many logs, and the words of Torah survive only through many minds. And you are the many minds that continue to teach the many minds who will hopefully go on to teach the many minds as we pass it down, Lador Vador. So I hope Rabbi Olsheim will help me in giving you the priestly benediction.
I'm going to ask the congregation to do a favor. Since we're in COVID, we really shouldn't be putting our hands on these fine educators' heads. I'm going to invite you to put your hands in the air, and I want you to feel all those hands on the tops of your heads. A COVID blessing for you. May Adonai, our God, bless you, protect you, keep you safe always.
Yair Adonai panav elecha v'choneka.
May the light of God's face shine upon you and always bring grace into your lives.
Yis Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's face always be lifted up unto each and every one of you, and may you always have long lives filled with the sense of shalom, filled with a sense of wholeness and a sense of peace.
Amen.
And we
Thank
say
you.
amen. We're going to invite you to stay right where you are because we're going to just turn around for the Aleinu, the beginning of our closing prayers, which you will find on page 586.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. And
again for Lori.
ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד.
We'll invite you to return to your seats as everyone is seated. In our prayer books, we now turn to Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish, and we'll invite those participating online to share the names of their loved ones who we should remember as well as we turn to page 598 in our Sidorim. This week, Congregation Ner Tamid remembers the following individuals. Our recent deaths: Sandy Toussaint, George Barnett, Rich Bale, Solomon Sparrow, Rosalie Ivner, Ernesta Youngman, Pete Fernandez, Geraldine Tabak, Janet Barsky, and Elijah Avram. We also think of these individuals who have died in this season in years past, for whom this is the anniversary of their passing or their yahrzeit. We think of Anita Abrams, Nathan Albala, Mildred Kadish, Bob Carter, Bernard Cohen, Jessica Doctors, Mitchell Dorson, Lowell Ferguson, Samuel Garshovsky, Yetta Goldberg, Bea Gresson, Flo Harris, Frida Hurwitz, Rose Hochstein, Jack Kaufman, Dee Klein, Bessie Kreisman, Betty Matter, Maurice Myers, Jane Ostrov, Albert Pessin, Everett Raphael, Richard Ritter, Catherine Rubin, Sylvia Saltz, Arthur Sawyer, Louis Schulman, Zola Siegel, Daniel Silverstein, Milton Wasserman, Murray Weissman, and Moira Williams. If there's someone's name whom I've mispronounced, or perhaps there's someone whom you are remembering this evening, either for the first 30 days following your loved one's passing, perhaps it's within the first year, perhaps it's the anniversary of their passing, I'll invite you to rise and share their names with our community. Thank you. Thank you. And from our live stream.
Robert Golovner. Our Facebook chat is having a little bit of a delay, so if there's anyone that we're missing, my apologies. We keep them in our hearts tonight.
We rise in body or in spirit as we say these words, hallowed by the generations, found on page 598, Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal, Yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma Divrach Hirute, Ve'amlich Malchute, B'chayechon Uvyomechon, Uvechaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala Uvizman Kari Vimru. Amen. Yehe Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'alam Ulalmei Almaya. Yit Barach V'yishtabach V'yit Pa'ar V'yit Ramam V'yit Naseh V'yit Hadar V'yit Alev V'yit Halal Shmei Dekudusha B'richu La'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tush B'chata V'nechemata Da'amiran Be'alma V'imru. Amen. Yehe Shalama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru. Amen. Osei Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and bring comfort to all those who are bereaved, both among us and those who are bereaved all around the world. And together we say, Amen. I'm going to invite you to be seated, except for, are we going to do something for birthdays?
If your birthday's in May, you can stay standing as you're comfortable, because we want to celebrate every year that we have the opportunity to take on life. So if you have a May birthday on the live stream, go ahead and write it in.
Yeah, and I'm supposed to mention David Yapko, 88 years old.
Yeah.
88. Listen, I was saying earlier to Ricky, every day above ground is a good day. I can only pray to make it to 88. That's amazing.
I'm going for 120.
120. Yeah. 120. You have a birthday. Tell me your name. And Jacob, how old are you going to be? How old are you now? Did he say 13?
He did. His bar mitzvah's coming up.
Bar mitzvah coming up. We say mazel. Oh, I think Rabbi A always asks, do you have a piece of wisdom to share?
Yeah, do you have a piece of wisdom for us, Jacob?
Not really.
Not right
not,
now? Okay.
not yet. If you think
Okay.
of something, you raise your hand, okay? All right. Richard. Mazel tov. You're finally a grown-up. Mazel tov, 65. One quick piece of wisdom. Go with your gut.
Go with your gut. All right.
Yeah, beautiful.
On our live stream, Jason Bachrock's 13th birthday also. Mazel tov for him. He's becoming a bar mitzvah this year as well. Carolyn Friedner's birthday. And I got to give a special shout out next Wednesday is to the woman who made me, my mom's birthday. So Elaine Enton, happy birthday to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are we going to sing maybe Shehechianu for birthdays? Is that
We
okay?
should, yeah.
Shehechianu is the blessing that we say for something that happens once a year or for the first time in our lives. So our birthday is always a perfect example of a time to say Shehechianu, thanking God for giving us life, literally, sustaining us, and bringing us to the very next birthday. So, Cantor?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh
Mazel tov on reaching the next year of your lives. May you have many more. May you live until 120.
I think we should have a l'chaim to that.
Oh, a l'chaim. Should we do that now?
Yeah, let's just
Kiddush.
say l'chaim to you. May birthdays. Anyone who has a birthday, l'chaim to you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Now, I see that there is a wonderful challah under here. I've been smelling it the entire time. But it is from a store. If you have a challah that you would like to sponsor one night and show off your challah baking skills, or even if you just want to say, I don't really bake, but I want to honor somebody and I want to bring the challah from a store, that's cool too. And we have kept this tradition throughout our COVID experience. And so I'd love to see some creative challahs on the bima. So let us know if you want to sponsor a Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Can't say a blessing without doing the associated act, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty good challah.
It is good challah. All right, so announcements. We had most of our announcements from Ira. I want to give a special announcement. So thank you to Rabbi Olshine for a wonderful year. She's been an incredible educator. She's been here on the bima. She's been in our lives, in our hearts, always here. And we're so, I said, how do you leave? Like, you can't leave now? What are we going to do?
I'll be back.
She'll be our neighbor.
I keep showing up. I'm going to come to Shabbat every once in a blue moon. I'll just show up.
So she'll be in Tempe, but we have a goodbye Shabbat for her next week. So we want you to come to that. Tell your friends so that we can celebrate Rabbi Olshine and bless her as she goes on her way. So that's a big one. And anything else that we need to mention? I don't know.
Sunday night.
Yeah, that's important too.
Shavuot.
You know.
Ira mentioned
Richard.
Shavuot. I'm coming to drum. I don't know about you, but I consider it really therapeutic. So come bang a drum.
Yeah, and we want to make sure we have enough drums. So please register so that we know you're coming, so we can make sure that there are enough percussion instruments for you. It'll be out on the Cantor patio. It should be really fun. I'm sorry to the live stream people. It's gonna be on a different system, so like you'll see it, but it just won't be the same feeling if you're not here. So if you can make it here, try to 7:30 on Sunday night. And Yisker will be at 6 p.m. on Monday evening for anyone that you are in remembrance for in the years that have passed or in this year. And just a quick note, this is the first time that we've passed out the oneggs, but we actually are going to have ice cream, I believe, on your way out to celebrate Shavuot and the milk and honey that is Israel and the Torah. And so please enjoy that. And be sure to schmooze, even though we, can't get too close, but we can at least schmooze again, which is really exciting. So
You can elbow people nicely.
in a good way. And say thank you to our teachers for everything that they do. All right.
We have a closing song.
We do.
And it is a prayer for peace in Israel.
Ayo, 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 Oryavo shalom aleinu, Oryavo shalom aleinu, Oryavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Oryavo shalom aleinu, Oryavo shalom aleinu, Oryavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Oryavo shalom aleinu, Oryavo shalom aleinu, Oryavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Oryavo shalom aleinu, Oryavo shalom aleinu, Oryavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Thank you for joining us live and on the internet. Would everybody just turn around and wave to the cameras and say, we love you on the internet too. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Good night, everybody.